Hi, this is Mike Wiedenfeld, relatively new member to the Boise Valley Fly Fishers group. First meeting I made was the February meeting. And at that meeting, I was really intrigued with the red survey and the data that's posted there, both from the Boise River as well as on the Owyhee River. Again, I've been on the Owyhee River and seen the signs that are posted up there, and really intrigued about how we get this information potentially out to the general public. So I thought I'd show you a couple of things and then ask you for just some feedback about whether or not you think this might be something we want to explore. And I'd be more than happy to do some of the legwork for this as well. My history has been spending a ton of time in the woods, mostly hunting, hiking, etc. I do some fishing as well. So this is onXmaps and a bunch of locations that I've been over the years, logging miles, treks, everything else. I can drop waypoints for where I'm at, fishing locations, other things as they move around through those. So the second application, I believe that onXmaps is probably one of the premier mapping tools that hunters are using to identify things. So you can see that all of these are the boundaries of each hunting unit that you can turn on and off. Will show private property, government property, national forest, state land. So you always know their motto is know where you stand. Another application that does the same thing is GoHunt maps. I'm a member of both of those. And again, they have layers that are there. So here's the hunting units, and so if you watch the screen here, I can turn off or I can turn on the information that identifies hunting units or other things that are out there. Neither of these two companies really do anything with fishing. They're literally pulling government data, fish and game data from all the states across the nation in order to provide all kinds of information to help people plan and hopefully be more successful at hunting. I've spent most of my time using onX, so I'm going to use this as an example, and I'd like to kind of showcase or have a question about how we might be able to use these applications potentially to disseminate this information to anyone who is a member or who has these two applications. I'd also be very interested. I've never really looked for this type of an application in the fishing world, and so if one already exists, this might be something else to explore. So, I'm going to zoom in on the Owyhee River in a particular section of the Owyhee River. So just below the dam, I'm going to zoom in on this particular spot that is right here. The two things that this piece of software and even GoHunt, or there are a couple of other applications that I've seen as well that are used, is they allow you to drop waypoints, which have GPS locations and otherwise. So this is this section of the Owyhee River that's right here. You'll notice the three lines that run through here. So this is the high power lines that cross the river. So north of this is the tunnel, and about maybe a half a mile to the south, following the road, gets you to the road that takes you up to the top of the dam. So there is one of the signs that Boise Valley Fly Fishermen, in conjunction with Oregon Fish and Game, put for reds on this particular sections that's right here. So the tools that are built into onXmaps is I can drop a waypoint wherever I want to. Oops, that was a bad click. So I'm going to move this. So this is where the Boise Valley Fly Fisher sign is. And I can save that and go from there. The other thing, another interesting tool is that I can also draw a shape or a line. And to do this, so I can start by, let's say I wanted to know, or I wanted to have an event held here and have everybody meet here. So this is a 2.6 acre area. I can draw these shapes. I can give them a name. And so let's say we had an event out there, and let's call parking. Again, if you're familiar with onX or some other application, I apologize for the intro to onX, but so that could be there. Now, one of the things that on this sign that's here is an actual sort of satellite imagery picture of where you are that says "Stay off the Reds," and draws a shape through that through the river. So it's possible that you could, and it's basically going to be something that looks kind of like this is what's on the sign. Detailing, and this could be given a name, something like and I'm going to make it red and save it. And so that defines the reds area. So I did that really quickly, but that could be managed in like this. So I tried to model that a little bit in terms of the two types of things. So with the example of the Owyhee has these sort of drawn shapes like this on the signs. The Boise map has kind of dots that appear there, which could simply be waypoints if that's the way those wanted to be put together. But if I go back to this, what I can do is I'm just going to hide this one on the map. And then one of the things is when you draw these shapes, you can put them in a folder. So I created a folder called Owyhee Reds. And what I thought about trying to do was to say, okay, how could I put everything in one location so people could literally download and import all of these reds that are along, in this case, the Owyhee River, in these shapes so that they would know where they were. Now, the nice part about onX and even GoHunt is that those layers are automatically downloaded to your phone. So if I go to these areas, you can see what I just did is now on my phone so that I can immediately have access to those when I'm out in the field. So, with that, anybody who's out and about with that application will be able to see these are where the reds are, and these are where hopefully I shouldn't be between November and March. So the interesting part about onX and even GoHunt is that I went through a process and I thought about how could I model this throughout all of the reds that are on the Owyhee River. And again, I think the signs are amazing that are out there. And as long as you go in here, I think they warn people where they are. But if I come in this exit entrance here and go down here, I may find my way without seeing the sign, which of course you can't put up a million signs all the way along there about where they are. But if we had access to something electronic, then you could do that. So here is, let me go back to this one. I'm just going to hide the parking lot on the map. It goes away. So what I did was I just tried to model a couple of, so if I turn this one on, I created a shape earlier, so trying to be speedy with you, and said, okay, there's a red in that particular area. And so I can turn these on. These are all in the same folder. I can turn them on individually, or I can turn them on as an entire group. So I could imagine, and again, or is it beneficial to have shapes that are on the river, or is it beneficial just to have waypoints that would be on those reds as they move around, which would be some feedback from you in terms of whether or not you think this has value or not. So what's really cool, so imagine, I know these are all three in the same little area, but imagine these shapes or waypoints that we put in along the Owyhee River to indicate where they were. If they all get thrown in the same folder, I can hide everything in that folder or turn them all on. And the most interesting part about that process is down here in the bottom is a button that says, so if I take, here's my folder that I put all three of those Owyhee reds that I drew around there as shapes. Right here hidden behind this is a button that says share. So if I click on share, it literally will create a URL that anyone could download. It is view only, so whoever creates this folder would be the only one. So it would be the person who year after year you could change these if necessary, and it would automatically be reflected in an update that people would do each year. So this is literally just a web link that could be posted on the website, put out via social media otherwise, to say, look, here's the reds on, in this particular case, the Owyhee River, the Boise River. You could have subfolders for both, and make those happen. So the same thing can happen. It's some things can get ported from one thing to another. So waypoints from onXmap can get directly imported into GoHunt. So you'd be able to put both of those on there. The shapes, I'm trying to remember whether or not I'd have to recreate them in both of those two applications, but you could imagine a list or a set of downloadable things, depending on what application people are using, that would identify and be able to pop them up during certain time frames. So we could go through, if we had GPS locations of all of these particular spots that are on the Boise River, we could easily be able to, in this particular case, these look like we could do these as waypoints relatively easily to identify where those reds are. And literally you could, within the folders and those sorts of things, be able to have different years. So I guess what I'm asking is that something that you might find some interest in continuing to explore? I'd love to be a part of that. And I'm actually leaving next week to go to Missoula, Montana for the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers rendezvous. And I expect that vendors, which will include both onX, GoHunt, will be there. As to whether or not that might be something that would be interesting to look at. Like I said, similar to some of the other features, like can you turn on a fishing reds layer, similar to the game units or other things that are automatically embedded there. So I'd love some feedback on what you think about this sort of electronic distribution of information in terms of the reds. and where those things are, whether this type of thing might be a venue for us to try to get some additional information out to people. And secondly, what you think about the idea of trying to maybe explore that a little bit with these two companies. And lastly, if there's a fishing application that's out there that does the same sort of thing that people are on, how we might manage that. So love some feedback. I know this video is a little rough, but it seemed easier to do actually using the application to kind of showcase what it could do if you're unfamiliar with it and go from there. So anyway, thanks again. Let me know.